So they do this experiment. Okay, so one group they give scaffolding, another group they didn't give any scaffolding, and then what they do is that they investigate what happened in these students when they were placed in inquiry-based learning environment, but with and without scaffolding. Is there any of you are doing something more or less similar like this? No. Okay, something about scaffolding. So what they do is that, so they investigate what happened, what are the group processes when students discuss in scaffolded groups or non-scaffolded groups. And then what is it that they analyze? They analyze the temporal analysis. Now, do not be discouraged or do not feel like, oh, okay, I never come across this word before, so I'm not going to read this journal. I'm sure it's going to be very complicated or complicated journal. But treat this as, okay, in the year 2020, these are the things that people are currently doing. So treat that as a challenge. Try to learn what do they mean by temporal analysis. Okay, because it's actually not difficult to do. Okay, so combining log data, that is simple, and lag sequential analysis, which I will also be talking about later on today. Okay, so do not feel discouraged with some terminologies that you think you never come across before. Okay, and let's say that you say that, oh, I never heard of this word before, maybe it is not relevant to my area. No, please do not feel that way, because later on, if you read the paper, you learn that okay, this is somehow what I can do in my research. Okay, so try to read that. If you see here, this is in the year 2020. So in the year 2020, these are the type of analysis that people is currently doing in our research area in educational technology. Okay, now similarly, okay, so similarly, you see here, okay, we have another one in the year 2017. So this is not that recent. Okay, the year 2017 is not that recent. However, if you see in the year 2017, they talk about behavioral patterns and they talk about interactive networks among primary school teachers online collaborative learning activities. So this is very common to us, which is online collaborative learning activities. So many of us do research on collaborative learning activities. Okay, so but if you think the way you analyze your data, if you have your online collaborative learning activities as your research setting, but if you think that you only analyze, for example, learning performance, and you do not go into detail about how they are networking with each other. So meaning to say that, even in the year 2017, you are not cope up with the current data analysis technique. Okay, so because in the year 2020, people are doing so much more, and even in the year 2017, people are doing so much more than statistical analysis. Okay, that is my point today, and I think that is the reason why Dr. Fendi asked me to deliver this. Okay, because these are the trend right now. Okay, not even the trend, but due to these activities, we can actually know more about what our research setting. We can know more about our participants in our research are doing. Okay. Okay, so I will start with this one. Okay, so let's say we have, okay, normally you always say that, you can have your research design is quantitative or qualitative, but as well, when you want to analyze, sometimes people also say that you can analyze your data quantitatively or you want to analyze your data qualitatively. Okay, sometimes you have quantitative type of data or qualitative type of data, but however, when you analyze that, it ends up with a quantitative type of data that you obtain, a quantitative result. Okay, so for quantitative analysis, usually, for example, you can have questionnaire if you want to ask perception. Then you can have questionnaire, and then you can have, for example, if you want to measure the learning performance, you can have the performance test, and then you get the score. So that score is a quantitative data. For qualitative analysis, for example, you can have your data source is in the form of video recording. So this video recording is not necessarily a classroom setting recording. It can also a record of screen navigation, that is also video recording. You can also record the eye tracking, that is also recording. Okay, and you can also, of course, record the learning behavior in the classroom, for example, that is also video recording. Okay, you can also collect information in the form of, let's say, your research setting. In your research setting, you ask your students to discuss, you ask your participants to discuss, and then you can record that discussion script. You collect that discussion script. That is also qualitative data. Or you have an interview session and then you collect the interview scripts. That is also qualitative data. So it seems like the data is qualitative, but later you can turn that into quantitative result. Okay, so this is how I describe that. Okay, for example, if you have your initially you have your data source is questionnaire. Okay, in the form of Likert scales, or you have, for example, scale from 1 to 5. And then you analyze that. You analyze your Likert scale data source, okay, in the form of frequency. So you calculate how many data is, how many respondents is 5 to your every item questions, and then you later you calculate mean. Or you can also have, hold on, I think something is, okay. So for example, you can have your questionnaire, and then you analyze that into frequencies as well as mean, or you can also have advanced analysis. For example, you carry out regression, you carry out ANOVA with your performance test score and things like that. So for video recording or qualitative data type, you can have thematic analysis for your video recording. So you observe your video recording and then you analyze what are the themes from your participants' behavior. Or you can also have a content analysis activities to analyze your video recording, online discussion script, and interview script. So what I wanted to say is that sometimes you only stop here. You only stop at this point. You stop at this point only. Okay? When, in fact, people are currently doing up to this point when they analyze their data. Okay? So I can say that this is more or less like the advanced data analysis, where you do something more with your analysis. If you stop here, it is very difficult, number one, for you to publish in impact factor journals lah. Okay. Number two, it also limits you from understanding what is actually happening in your data. Okay. So I want to talk more about this advanced data analysis section rather than talking about this analysis section, because I'm sure this data analysis section, this one is somehow you are familiar with, and there are many, I think, workshops out there talking about how to do inferential statistics, how to do, of course, descriptive statistics, how to do thematic analysis using for example, NVivo. Okay, so that one stops here. Okay, so now people are more looking forward to have structured equation modeling using a smart PLS, things like that. So there are also people starting to do this kind of analysis. Okay, but this one is more suitable if you have questionnaire type of questionnaire as your source of data. What about if you have other things? Okay, you have video recording. What more can you do with your video recording? You have online discussion script. What more can you do with your online discussion script rather than having a thematic analysis? So these are what people are currently doing in the year 2020. In fact, starting in the year 2017 or 2015. Okay, so you should do maybe data mining. You should do maybe structured equation modeling, social network analysis, lexical analysis, or Markov or semi-Markov modeling. Okay, so I will be looking more into this part today rather than talking about this part. So I'm not going to talk about this part because this is, I think, it's very basic, and even in master's level, you should be able to do this, at least this stage. Okay. Okay, so as I said, why advanced data analysis? Okay, other than for the purpose of publishing, okay, it helps you to understand the details of events in the research setting. Okay, in that research setting, you have time, you have that space during that time, during that given space to your participant, you will be able to understand what more is happening. Okay, what did the participants do in the research setting and how did they do it? Okay, only by doing advanced data analysis you can be able to answer this kind of question. Okay, so if you stop at, you know, that the first column of data analysis, if you stop at this column, okay, you won't be able, it is difficult for you to understand how the students perform better, for example, how students, why students behave that way. You cannot get that answer from this column. Okay, but if you analyze it during in this third column, then you will be able to to answer this kind of question. Okay, what did the participants do in the research setting and how did they do it? Okay, for that reason, okay, to understand how, to understand what did they do, okay, what are the research objectives that we usually have in our educational technology research? Okay, normally, um, I think this might be some of your research objectives as well. So number one, usually to understand more about what students are doing and how did they do, okay, usually we can have this kind of research objective. Okay, number one, to evaluate students' learning interaction based on learning performance. If you see here, I have two variables. Number one is their learning interaction. Another variable is their learning performance. Rather than understanding only students' learning performance, okay, I want to understand with specific learning performance, what is their learning interaction. Okay, so that is the number one. You can also have a research objective that asks about, maybe you want to know about what is the pattern of discussion for critical thinking in computer supported collaborative learning environment. So here you want to see if, for example, that participant, they have a certain level of critical thinking, how did they discuss? Okay, that is number two. Number three is, for example, for you to predict, for example, if a student scores B, what is the probability later on in the future, students given in this similar research setting, they will be able to perform A, to score differently, for example. So that is number three. So these three example of research objective, you cannot just solve that using the simple data analysis method. You have to do advanced data analysis method to be able to get the answer to this question. Okay, so I give you an example. Okay, for these research objectives, what is it that we analyze? Okay, sometimes we analyze the task content. Okay, if you give a task to your participants in your research setting, so you analyze how did they do, what did they do in that task when you give that task, or usually when they interact in your research setting, you analyze the message function. Sometimes when they talk, you want to analyze what is it that they talk about and why. Why did they talk about that? Okay. Another way is that you can also analyze the message structure. For example, you want to investigate why this specific student with this specific of learning performance send out like maybe 10 messages. Okay. However, we have another participant who scored maybe B, but only send like 2 messages. So that is a message structure. Okay. Or you can also investigate, okay, the way they interact. So this is also depends on you, whether do you want to investigate their human-human interaction, or is it you want to investigate human content interaction. Okay. Okay. So you can investigate the way they interact with people with people interaction, or the way they interact with your, because we are in the area of educational technology, sometimes we develop apps, sometimes we develop VR tool or AR tool or computer-based learning environment. So maybe we want to see how our participants interact with our environment, or maybe you want to see how our participants interact with the content that we give. Okay, so we can also analyze this interaction. Okay, now if I map that out, okay, for example, I have research objective, this one, to evaluate students' learning interaction based on learning performance in a personalized computer-based learning environment. Okay, so my research setting is personalized computer-based learning environment, and I want to investigate how students interact based on their learning performance. Okay, so let's say my operational definition for learning interaction is human-human interaction lah. So I'm not interested on how they interact with my software. However, maybe I am interested with how they interact with their friend in the personalized computer-based learning environment. Okay, so that operational definition, it depends on you. Okay, so I can do this, for example, by collecting discussion script, because my operational definition is that they are interacting with each other, human-human interaction, and I put them in such a way they are interacting with their friends. Okay? That is to collect information on learning interaction. So for learning performance, I will be also collecting information from their test score. Okay, and later on, okay, for the simple data analysis, okay, I carry out content analysis to identify what is the message structure and what is the message function. Okay, then I carry out content analysis. Okay, then I want to calculate how many, for example, from this discussion script, the message function is for greetings. How many from this discussion script, the message function is for them to elaborate? How many from this discussion script, the message function is they argue with each other? Then I'll calculate the frequencies. So I carry out descriptive analysis. Okay, that is for learning interaction. So for learning performance, what did I do? I have their test scores. So I investigate, is there any significant difference between one student and another student, for example, given in a specific research setting. So I carry out t-test. Now, I can stop here. Okay, I can stop here if I want. Okay, however, to understand more, about how did they do it. Here, if I stop here, I can answer the question of what. What is their learning interaction? I can stop here. Okay? But to understand why and to understand how, I have to do advanced data analysis here. Okay? So the purpose of having advanced data analysis is usually to answer the question of why and also how. If you stop here, this answers the question to what. What is their learning interaction? What is their learning performance? But you cannot answer the question of how and why. So for how and why, you have to do advanced data analysis. So for this reason, you can use, for example, social network analysis or sequential analysis. Okay, remember the paper that we saw just now, they carry out sequential analysis. It is a very simple procedure if you want to learn, but I cannot describe that today because I have to teach you how to prepare the data, how to clean the data, how to key in the data. Okay, we have to do that in separate session. Okay, that is for research objective 1. Let's say I have another research objective. Let's say I want to identify the pattern of discussion. Okay, I know many of us here, our lecturer, our supervisors ask, this will be the contribution of your thesis, okay, of your PhD thesis. You need to produce a pattern. Okay, so that the pattern will illustrate what is it, what happens inside your research setting. So we collect information such as this. Okay, we can also stop here. Okay. However, to understand more about how and why, you can also carry out sequential analysis and social network analysis. Later on, I will show you what is the example of output from doing these processes. Okay. If you want to predict, for example, similarly, you can, if you stop here, you will be able to know about students' learning. What is students' learning performance only? You won't be able to predict. To predict, you have to carry out maybe clustering, you have to carry out decision tree, you have to carry out SEM. Okay, then only you'll be able to predict. Okay, so this prediction is your contribution to your research. Okay, so what would be the example, the result example? Okay, for research objective number 1 that I have been describing just now, let's say we want to evaluate students' learning interaction based on learning performance, okay, in a personalized computer-based learning environment. So this is actually the result that I get. I have similar research objective. Okay, so what I did in my research setting is that I analyze students' learning performance and then I get their score. Okay, once I get their score, I divide these students into either high performing students or low performing students, or students who do not, they have static performance. Okay, they did not improve after the second test. They did not improve. However, their learning performance is similar. Their test score is similar. So I name that as HL group. So I also have high performing group, students who scored higher. I put them as H group. I also have students who perform lower. After test, they did not perform. In fact, they have decreased in the learning performance in the test score. So I put them as L. Now, after I group these students into 3 different learning performance group, okay, I want to investigate how did they interact based on this different learning performance group. So I want to see if that students is performing well, which is they are in the H group, how did they interact? What did they do so that they are able to be in the H group? Okay, I also do the same for the HL group, and I also do the same for the L group. Okay, so how do I want to investigate the learning interaction? That is when I use the sequential analysis. Okay, so when I use the sequential analysis, I was able to identify, students in the H group, These are the example of interaction that they do. Okay, this is the lexicontial analysis. This is the sequence of events that they do when if people in for people in H group. For people in the static group, this is what they do. This is how they interact. For people in the L group, this is how they interact. Okay, I won't be explaining about what is cognitive one, what is CHV2 and all. Okay, if you want, you can read the paper. So this is how I understand, how I explain how students interact differently if they have different learning performance. Okay. Up until here, I'm sorry, I did not stop myself just now. Up until here, do we have any question? Do we have any question? No? Okay. If not, then I will move on. Yeah. Okay. This is an example of result. This is also a result of sequential analysis punya result. Okay. So this is from the paper 2017 that I show initially just now. So in the computer science education. So this is an example of result. So they analyze how did the students construct knowledge and they level in a computer supported collaborative learning environment. They say that level of knowledge construction, there are 6 level of knowledge construction, which is KC1, KC2, KC3, 4, 5, and 6. And from this result, from lexicontial analysis, they found that in the first round, students did not have any knowledge construction. However, in the second round, they found that when students have knowledge construction KC1, then later on they have KC2. Okay, so this is an example of another lexicontial analysis processes or the example of result that you get. So for me, I prefer the square boxes, but for these guys, they prefer the circle form. So it doesn't matter. Okay. Okay. For pattern of discussion, okay, this is how you can do. This is the result of you carry out social network analysis. So this is an example of a paper in the year 2013. Okay, in the year 2013, so these people, what they want to investigate is that how did the students interact if they are placed in a group with someone who has been assigned as facilitator. So here, for example, they are able to see, this one is the facilitator. It's not a facilitator, it's their student, it's also student but appointed as facilitator. And they are able to see if you have more lines connected to that person, meaning to say you send more messages to that person. This is what it means by this pattern. Okay, so you can also get this pattern from one single click, then you click on run and then you immediately get this pattern. Okay, so it's very simple process. Okay, so that is for social network analysis to get a pattern. Okay, if your research objective is one of the research objective is to get a pattern of something, you can use social network analysis to do that. Okay, this is also another example of social network analysis to find pattern. So what they do is that they record, they did not record, they analyze the interaction. Initially, during week 1, I think they analyze in three different interval. So here is between January until February, one month, then another month, and then another month. So they see the changes in the way the students interact over 3 times. At the beginning of their research setting, in the middle of their research setting, and at the end of the research setting. So this is how the students interact. You see here in the middle, they did not interact that vigorously. However, they interact more at the beginning as well as at the end. So this is also an example of you are able to understand. For example, if you say that if you also if you also collect a student score in the beginning here. Here you also have the score here. You also have the score, student score at the end of the course. You might want to compare why the students have high score in the beginning of the course, or maybe they decrease, and this one maybe they have better performance. Then with this network, you are able to explain, oh, no wonder their performance is high because they interact more at the beginning of the research setting, and they don't have their performance is not that good in the middle of the research setting because they did not interact that much in the middle of the research setting, and at the end of the setting you found that, for example, if their performance increase, you are able to explain, oh, no wonder their performance increase because they interact even more at the end of the course. So as I mentioned, these advanced analysis, data analysis like social network analysis or sequential analysis are able to explain why, the why part or the how part, okay, rather than explaining simply what is happening, okay. This is example if you do prediction, okay. If you say that you want to have you want to predict what happened later on if I have similar students or if I have more students later on, okay. For example, you have developed a very nice mobile app, okay, and then you have an experiment with a group of students trying out your mobile app, okay, and then you want to convince people or you want to convince in your research that later on in the future, if more students use my mobile apps, they are able to perform better. So that is what we call as prediction. So usually prediction has to be based on your current finding. So so to convince people in your research that the learning environment that you develop, the mobile app that you develop, or whatever learning environment that you develop will be able to predict better learning performance, so you can do data mining. Okay, so this is an example of a data mining result. So this is from my thesis, which is like maybe 8 years ago. Okay, so this is what I did 8 years ago. So I predict students' performance. So my students' performance is either I did not put score, I did not put grade. I put that as whether they are students in the category of P1, okay, and students in the category of P2, and students categorized as S. Okay, so in my research, I say that if the students have the best performance are students categorized in the P2 group. Okay, the so-so student is categorized as the P1 student, and the not so good student is categorized as the S student. So I want to predict in my learning environment in the future, okay, so what the students should do to be able to get P1, okay. So here in this data mining, in this decision tree, I found that if students go through this pathway, they will end up here. If the students choose this pathway, they will end up here, and so on. Okay, so there are different ways that students can do in my learning environment to either perform P1, P2, or S. Okay, this is what I predict lah in my learning environment. So you can do something like this as well. Okay, for your thesis, that is if you think that at the end of the day, you want to help the research area or educational technologies, other educational technologies to be able to use your mobile apps, then you are suggesting this kind of prediction. Okay, so always remember the reason you write your thesis. The reason you write your thesis is number one, you are a scholar. At the end of the day, you will be a scholar, and at the end of the day, you want to contribute something to educational technology area. So it is very important. At the end of the day, you are able to contribute to the research area. So think of something that can help other researchers in the future to be able to use what you have researched on. Okay, it's not necessarily to get a PhD. Of course, you get a PhD at the end of the day. However, it is also important for you to know what to be able to contribute back to the research area. What is it that you want to contribute to other researchers, so that other people can further research on what you have been doing, so that they can further expand whatever you have been doing. Because you do a PhD for 3 years and more, so do not waste your 3 years of effort for advanced analysis. Okay, for simple analysis, I know you are also very familiar with, for example, SPSS. You use, for example, NVivo. So those are very common software that you use to analyze to come up with statistical analysis, like t-test, to perform inferential statistic, to perform frequencies and means. Okay, so for advanced data analysis, as I described just now, okay, you can also use for social network analysis or SNA, you can use GIFI. GIFI is a free software. um, GIFI is a free software that you can use. I think you can just Google on GIFI. Okay, so this is it is also very simple to use. So this is you can have this kind of network when you analyze your data, and then you just input your data in the data laboratory. Okay, and then you can click on apply, and then you run that. Okay, you choose whatever layout that you want, you click on run, and then you get this visualization. This visualization or this pattern, you can import that in your thesis. Okay, you might want to explain, for example, how many nodes, how many edges, how many these circles you have, and how many lines you have in this graph. So you can do that or when you explain your network. Okay, so this is an example of a software for social network analysis. And if you can also learn that by heart. I think I learned that using YouTube video tutorial, and I read some books. There are books on DeFi as well, so you can get that. I think you can also have ebook from that. I think they have quite a lot of open source of tutorial for how can you analyze data using DeFi. Okay, for lag sequential analysis, okay, if you remember just now, initially I show you about an article that was produced in the year 2020 in Computers and Education, and they talk about temporal apa temporal analysis, I think. Okay, temporal analysis. They use the word temporal analysis, but actually they simply run their data inside this software, GSEQ software, and they carry out lag sequential analysis. This is also a very simple analysis that you can do. Okay, you can just prepare your data in the form of I think they accept .csv format data, and then you clean that up. Okay, and then you just run that. Okay, you code your data, you run that, and you choose whatever p-value that you want, whatever z that you want, and then you will be able to get oh, I didn't have the output just now. The output here, like sequential analysis, this is the output. But however, like sequential analysis, they do not have the visualization. Like social network analysis, they will automatically generate this for you. Okay, but for like sequential analysis, I have to draw this manually from the finding. So this is also has been drawn manually. This is not computer generated. It is I draw this one using Microsoft Word. Okay, I think these guys as well, I think they draw this, maybe they draw it better. So this one is also a result of lexicontial analysis, a result of this software. Okay, so this software is also available for free. You can download them here. It is available for free. And then if you are interested in using this software, GSEQ software, however, this one, it runs only in Windows. Okay, for GIFI, they run both in Windows as well as Mac. But for GSEQ, they run only on Windows. You cannot analyze your data if you use a Mac. So you have to get a Windows-based software. So if you want, they have a book also, how to prepare the data in the format SDIS and how to use that in GSEQ software. Okay, this is a very old book, but however, it seems like it is recently being used. Okay, if you see just now the publication in 2020, they use this method. Okay, they analyze the data using lag sequential analysis method using the software GSEQ, right? Finally, if you want to do, for example, you want to do clustering, you want to predict like what I did just now, this one, I do prediction, okay? I use the software Weka to generate this one. Okay, this one is also automatically generated software. So I use Weka software to generate that decision tree just now. Okay, so I have you can open your file, and then it's also very simple, and then this is data on breast cancer, if I'm not mistaken. So they will come up about what are the variables that you have. This one is age, menopause age, cluster that data. You can also predict the data, and then you later on can visualize the data. Now, the one thing that I would like to remind you is that actually using using SAM, you can also do prediction. However, if I'm not mistaken, SAM usually predicts the interval data type. Okay, for example, I want to predict if I sell a car, okay, I have a car selling company. I want to predict how many of my customers, okay, who will buy a specific car has an income range from 1,000 ringgit to 2,000 ringgit. Okay, I want to predict. So age is actually interval data, kan? Okay, so however, if I want to predict, for example, grade, how many of my students later on will be able to get an A? So grade is a nominal data. It is not an interval data. Okay, so usually to predict nominal data, you can use Weka. But if you want to predict interval type of data, you can also simply use, I think, IBM SPSS, they have advanced punya tool for prediction, or you can do that simply in SAM. Okay, you do not have to use Weka for that. If you want to do prediction in Weka, it is useful for if the thing that you want to predict is a nominal data type, not interval data type. Okay, so yeah, I think that's all I want to share. So I open for question. If you have any question. How many? Oh, I'm sorry. I think I should give the attendance list. Do we have any question? No question? What about is there any of you who are currently doing something like something related to, you know, finding pattern? You can ask me whether you know, whether the things that you propose to the analysis tool that you want to propose is useful or not. I think I can give some comments on that. Or if not, yeah. Wait, hold on, I send. So this is the attendance link. Okay. For master level, do I need to do advanced data analysis? Well, is a yes and it's also a no. Okay. It depends on your research objective. Okay. If your research objective ends at, for example, at the end of the day, you just want to have relationship or so it depends on your research objective as well. However, it is good for you to practice doing this advanced data analysis because believe me, it is not that complicated. It is a matter of, you know, if you already have the data, it's a matter of cleaning the data and you just put it inside and then you are able to click on that in within 1 second and then you get the visualization that you want. For master's level, I would say it depends on your research objective and there is no need maybe if you do not have question like what's the pattern, what is the or you don't have any research question that asks how did the students perform, so you don't have the how part, then there is no need for you to do advanced data analysis. You can stop at, you know, answering the what part. Okay. Any other question? Do we have someone also doing something, investigating patterns, or at the end of the day, you want to have framework? Actually, framework, if you want to, at the end of the day, you want to have a kerangka, a framework, you can also do similar steps because nobody says that a framework has to be handwritten, a framework has to be, you know, manually drawn. No. Okay. You can also have your framework in the form of like a visualization that I show you just now. Okay. It is not wrong to do that. So usually most of us at the end of the day we want to have a framework, right? Because like what I did at the end of the day, I want to have a framework. I claim to say that my prediction is a framework that that I want to contribute for my research. So if you at the end of the day you want to produce framework, it is also okay for you to do the advanced data analysis like what I have shown you just now. Okay.
Good morning, doctor. Good morning.
Yes. Yes.
If someone is planning to use a lag sequential analysis, I think the source should be from log activities. Is there any other source of data that's be needed apart from log activities on the online platform?
For lag sequential analysis, what lag sequential analysis is actually you have they analyze, for example, is it okay, for example, I am talking. Okay.
Okay.
After I talk, then I point at something. So I have two behaviors. Okay. So after I talk and then I point at something. So lag sequential analysis will analyze what is the probability after I talk and then later I point at something. And is that sequence of behavior is significant? That is lag sequential analysis. They want to investigate if you have a behavior or if your participant is discussing about something. For example, usually when they start the discussion, they start with greeting. They say hello. And then after they say hello, they ask question. So what is the probability for a student after they say hello and then they will they will ask question. So that is what like sequential analysis do. Okay,
Okay.
they predict the probability of the next behavior. So that is like sequential analysis do. So it doesn't come from log data. No, it
Okay.
comes from behavior that has been recorded.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any other question? Everyone's good. But I think later on, maybe Dr. Fendi will also organize if you want to learn more specifically for using social network analysis. I think we have one master subject teaching specifically social network analysis. I think hadir wajib, what we call that, hadir apa you can simply attend a master's course. The name of the subject is user interaction in new media. So in that subject, we teach you specifically on how can you analyze interaction, uh, um, whether your interaction is in WhatsApp ke, the interaction is in whatever platform lah. Okay, so in that subject, it teaches you how to analyze interaction using social network analysis software. So you can enroll in that course, I think, sebagai hadir wajib. The name of the subject is user interaction in new media. It is a master subject. So we teach how students can analyze that one. Okay, because I think if you aim at later on and later on you are going to be lecturers as well, if you think that you want to be lecturers as well, later on I think it is important for you to keep up what is currently happening. Okay, for example, here in the year 2020 people are doing this like sequential analysis. Okay, so if you in the year 2020 you stop at simply regression, or you stop at maybe ANOVA or MANOVA, it is very hard later on in the future for you to evolve in your educational technology research area if you do simple analysis, but you do not want to explore what are the other analysis methods that is currently been doing in the research, and then in a way that will be left behind. That is what I meant to say. Okay. But of course, go back again to your research objective and see if you can dig further down your data. It doesn't mean that you need to collect new data, but it's just that you have to have more detailed analysis rather than analyzing your data, your available data, and stop at MANOVA or ANOVA. Okay, but you detail that down, analyze more using the same data, using like sequential analysis or any other methods that I have mentioned just now. Okay, if there is no other further question, so I wish all of you good luck. If you wish to learn more about the software, I think you can propose that maybe to Dr. Fendi, and I think we can arrange a specific session for that, for you to learn step by step on how to analyze the data. Okay, I wish you all good luck, and I think we'll see each other in the next bootcamp session. Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr.
For the for processing.